Hey guys, once again here bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so now that BUU and Goku are in the game and I've had a bit of a chance to play with them both, I thought it would be time to do the updated top 10 Dokkan Fest TURs on global tier list. I always say Dokkan Fest TURs with like a little asterisk next to it because of course you guys know from my previous lists that I do include Limit Breaker VEGETA and also Super Saiyan 3 Rose in consideration for these, simply because, you know, they awaken with 77 medals from a Dokkan event. They were on par or better than a bunch of the units on the list before, and so it just felt arbitrary to not include them when we talk about these guys, because they're the main headliner units of the Hero Celebration. And like I say, 77 medals, all that stuff, right? Especially VEGETA. Even if you don't want to count Rose, Limit Breaker VEGETA, I think, should count for the list. So, a couple of points as we always go over with these tier lists, because most of you guys are cool, like 99%. There's always one or two comments of people that are either don't listen to the explanations I give in the video, or somebody even genuinely responded when I questioned a reply that they put, that they didn't actually watch the video, they just skipped to the end to see the actual top 10 list, which, you know, I give reasons for why I put the units in the places that I put them. But at the beginning, you guys know, I always say a couple of things like, this is based on my own personal experience. So my experience using the units, that's why I always do these lists as the units on global. So obviously like Topo, Frieza, they're not going to be on here because I've not used them. I've tested them out briefly like on the private server, but I've not used them enough to try and like rate them amongst the other units on global, and of course with the meta that we have on global. And that is of course the other big thing, is it's on global, as in on global right now with the meta that we have, which has been the same for quite a while, although there is the consideration of the two new red zone stages that we already have from the Martian Buu Saga red zone. Obviously we are going to get more stages for that as well, so realistically this list could even change even without the release of any new characters. The list could change slightly depending on what the new final stage, like that could be the new hardest stage in the game, and some of these units could end up like jumping back up the list or going down further. Maybe a unit that was just off the bottom of the list will end up actually making it on there. Obviously this could all change, but this is based on the current meta on global, and again is entirely based on my own experience. So if you have a different list, if you disagree with any of the placements, do let me know down below in the comment section. But be cool, be chill. We've had some good discussions in the comments in the past from people who actually do leave interesting comments. If you don't agree with any of my positions on these, it's perfectly fine, but like, explain why you don't agree with them. There's nothing more annoying than when you get someone put a comment that's like, he thinks this unit is better than this unit, and that's it, that's all the comment that they put. And it's like, yes, I do, I explain why in the video. Would you care to explain why you don't agree with that? But those kind of comments are just completely pointless. But as I said, for 99% of you guys, you're all chill. We have some interesting discussions. Some of you guys have even changed my mind on placements before in the comments, but like I said, you'll only do that by putting actual thoughtful comments and not dumb stuff. So anyway, we're going to jump in. I will say as well, and I'll probably mention it a few times, any units that are right next to each other, like if we say like 6 or 7 or 2 and 3, that kind of thing, like I could feel like any of those units could be switched by like one placement, and I probably wouldn't have a huge disagreement with it. I did find most of the list actually kind of difficult now, because I think there are a lot of units that you could easily make 1 or 2 extra arguments and they could move up a spot, or like the unit below them could move up a spot, or who knows. But anyway, we're going to start off with number 10. And at number 10, I've kind of put both of them here because I saw in my last tier list a lot of people still arguing Piccolo over 23rd World Tournament Goku. I've got these guys at the bottom of the list for now. Obviously, Goku, when you really get him going, he can still be really good. And obviously, one of the newest difficult stages is, of course, the Super BUU, who is an AGL boss that does an AoE. And this guy can negate Ki Blast super attacks as well, so he can actually be quite good against against Super BUU. I honestly could be tempted to move him up a little bit, but I guess it depends on what the future stages are that come out. And then this guy, unfortunately, as more extreme options have come out for Zamasu's team, like Harudagan and the new BUU, I find myself just never really using this guy outside of the World Tournament. He can still be good. Like, I used him in that int units video for the Barbady's Forces team, but obviously he's just not quite in the position that he once was. He can still be good. I mean, this is the thing, right? Even if the units are at the bottom of the list, it's still the 10 best, like, non-easy ATURs on global, right? So not exactly, being number 10 isn't exactly me saying that he's bad, but he can still be good against some of the stuff that we have in the meta. Fusion Zamasu and Omega are still the other, like, big bad events, and he can do okay in those. He's not going to be tanking supers, especially, like, later on, but the giant form can be super good. This guy's very hit or miss. That's why I think it's still difficult to decide out of these two which is better. But yeah, Goku has just kind of fallen off a little bit, especially in terms of the teams that you'd want to run him on. Obviously, a lot of the teams that have been getting buffs recently are not teams that he is on. But yeah, I have these guys kind of both together at number 10. So at number 9, we have Android 21. I could see her moving up potentially, especially when the anniversary content comes out. I was even tempted to put her above the unit that's at number 8. The only reason why I haven't yet is because she's not very good against AoEs. So against Fusion Zamasu, she's not very good. Omega, she can be transformed by then, so then usually she can do okay. But against Super BUU, I've been finding with a lot of these teams that you can get through Evil BUU quite quickly. So if you get to Super BUU and she hasn't transformed yet, then obviously she's going to get destroyed by Super BUU. If you have transformed, she can be a little bit better. Obviously, if you can use her active skill to get an action break, if she can get hit by a normal first as well, then obviously she can be much, much better against Super BUU. But as it stands, her team has gotten a lot of buffs, but she herself is not really in an improved spot in the meta. Now, if the new most difficult stage comes out once we've got all these red zone stages, and it's not an AoE boss, or even potentially it's an STR boss, and of course the team gets the rest of the buffs, right? We still have the Tech Exchange BUU Easy A to come. Who knows what the Part 2 LR is going to be. I could definitely see her moving up the list. But because at the moment I'm trying to consider the global meta, and really the events that I took into account were Fusion Zamasu, Omega, and then Super BUU. Yeah, she's not going to move up much higher, unfortunately. Because at number 8, we have Harudagan. Now, Harudagan is in kind of a weird spot too. His team's not the best, but he fits onto some interesting teams. He's on BUU's 200% lead, so he is actually a really good unit for BUU's team. I think there's a lot of situations where I would say Android 21 is better than him, especially with her team, but again, because she's not so good against AoEs, and this guy, whilst he might need to dodge, especially before he's gotten his supers off and stuff, he at least does have that ability, right? You can take him into any of these AoE bosses, and he can just end up dodging every single attack on the turn. Especially once he transforms, he can hit really hard. As long as you get the 3 dodges after transforming, he has the guaranteed dodge turn, which is quite nice. Anytime you have a turn where a character has guaranteed dodge, it's you kind of know you're safe, at least with them, right? So Harudagan definitely can be very good. I think in their best case scenarios, and like I say, with no AoE boss, I probably would put 21 above Harudagan. In fact, I am kind of tempted to just put her above him anyway, but like I said, if we're taking into account those 3 specific events, Zamasu, Omega, and Super BUU, I feel like he's better in those events than she is, even though her team is better, and she can potentially have much better solo performance. So, like I say, if you wanted to switch these 2 around in your own personal list, I would have no problem with that at all. But yeah, Harudagan's at number 8. At number 7, I have Physical Rose. I could be tempted to put him higher because I do actually think still that he gets mad underrated. I'm putting up a video. It's either going up today. It'll have either gone up before this list or it's going up just after this list. But I took the Super Boss's team, his team, with double Rose leads, up against the Barbady's Forces. And I had the turn where he had his active skill active and had transformed with the domain. And we actually got the rare chance, because I know people don't like his inconsistency, which I agree he can be inconsistent, but a couple of his extra attacks, I think we literally got 2 of them where the rare chance of it becoming a super actually procced. So he did a whole bunch of super attacks, and like the final super attack of the turn, I think he ended up attacking like 6 or 7 times in total, and the final super attack of the turn, it was like a 21 million attack stat. And then, of course, after that point, he's got like well over 2 million defense. He just tanks everything. He can be super good. Now, on his worst turns, he can look really bad, which is why he probably isn't a lot higher in the list for me. Super Bosses is going to get a lot of buffs with the anniversary, with Broly. That Int Freezer that is the Super Bosses support unit can be really good as well. So I think he could potentially go higher. Again, depending on like the, if we get the new final boss of this Majin Buu Red Zone is like an Int character, or an Int boss that doesn't do AoEs, this guy could be really good. Even against AoEs, he can be fine with the damage reduction and having extra before attacking. But yeah, Rose I think is super underrated. I have him at number 7. It'd be interesting to see where he would place on like a JP tier list, because Topo's probably better than him. I don't know about Frieza. But yeah, have him at number 7. I think that's a decent placement for him. I actually honestly struggle with, I think just because it's with global, I think when the anniversary content comes out, it does age this next guy a little bit. But I did struggle whether to put him over the person we have at number 6, which is God Goku. So I did the same thing in my last tier list where I put God Goku just above Rose. And the main deciding factor is the leader skill, because his leader skill is just so good, right? You can make so many different category teams by running pure or hybrid Saiyans under his leader skill. Any missions or Super Battle Road stages or anything like that where you need to use a specific team, because he's on so many categories, there are often ways that you can just make a God Goku team in order to fulfill that particular category. And on the current global meta, like Zamasu and Omega, their AoE phases are int. So a lot of the time you don't even necessarily have to worry about getting the 6 orbs, which I know a lot of people complain about. You only need to get the 3 to get the extra dodge, so he has 60% chance to dodge. And then he's got type advantage in those phases anyway. So I still find, even now, like running the new Goku, I've been running God Goku on his team, and he still performs very well, I think, on global. I think on their best turns, Rose can definitely look better than God Goku, but I think it's just a case of, in the meta on global, with the teams that they're on, and then this guy's leader skill, it just puts him a little bit over Rose for me. Maybe when the anniversary content comes out, that will change, because of course we start getting to the point where God Goku, if he's not dodging even with the guard, he's taking a fair bit of damage, and if you don't get the guard, he can just get taken out straight away. Whereas Rose really only has to worry about supers from the hardest hitting bosses. And again, it all depends how many times he's supered and whether domains are active and stuff like that. So I think on their better turns, Rose could definitely be better than God Goku. But overall, God Goku, I think in the global meta currently is probably just that little bit ahead of Rose. And maybe it is just because of his leader skill. As I've said already with many of these placements, if you would put Rose above God Goku, I probably wouldn't complain much about that. So then above God Goku, in slot number 5, we have Dragon Fist Goku. Dragon Fist Goku is super good. I think he's super underrated as well. I'm having tons of fun with this unit, especially on the new Goku team. Sat next to AGL Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Mine is getting 14 million attack stats with 1 dupe. And then his defense after supering is more than high enough to tank all normal attacks on global. In slot 2 or 3 has a 70% chance to dodge to back that up as well. So the only things that can really damage him are super attacks, which he has a 70% chance to dodge. He then has the Dragon Fist, like the standby, which gives you a scouter and gets a guaranteed super counter. That is a ridiculously powerful mechanic. And one interaction that I only just used for the first time when recording a thing earlier, I think it was when we did the Goku versus Omega. I don't know if that video will be out yet when this goes up. But with running the STR Super Vegeta EZA on Goku's team, once you get Vegeta to fuse and he has the 10 turn scouter, it takes away the risk factor of using this guy's standby. Because as we all know, if you use his standby and then the enemy isn't supering that turn because you get the scouter, you've kind of wasted using it that turn. And I know you can reset the app and just not use it, but I don't like doing that, especially during challenge runs. So having another unit on the team that's then got a scouter up, we then got on to the next turn with this guy on rotation, could see that there was a super in slot 2, so put AGL Super Saiyan 3 Goku in slot 1, put this guy in slot 2, pop the standby, we know we're going to counter the super, and all in all that was a very good turn. So I really like this guy. His kit is very, very useful, very interesting. I know people don't like his animations all that much, but I really like this guy. Also the fact that his standby, I think it gets overlooked, gives all allies 3 key and 59% defense as well. Super beneficial for that rotation. Like AGL Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku post Super, not only has he built up that damage reduction and everything, but with this defensive buff from Dragon Fist Goku, even in the later turns where some of his damage reduction has obviously dropped off, he's still very, very strong defensively, especially in slot 1, if there's a Buu Saga ally in slot 3, so he's got his extra defense and guard. Yeah, this guy's just super, super good. Now, I would have probably put him one spot higher. I do still find this guy really hard to place, right? Because I still have, at number 4 now, Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 VEGETA. So we talked about this in the stream that I made. I think this is going up on Sunday, but we talked about it in the stream on Sunday morning. He's a very difficult character for me to rate because I've spoken many times before and I kind of go back and forth about how much weight I want to put into that. We even talk about it on the podcast on the last episode. When it comes to evaluating units kind of like in a vacuum, like if we say this guy on his best rotation with his best like link partner, then as I've said many times before, there's barely any units in the game that do what he does on turn 1. Like even let's say like Tech Saiyan Day VEGETA, who obviously, as we've not mentioned him yet, is going to be higher on the list than this guy. Turn 1, VEGETA is better than VEGETA on turn 1. Because if we're taking into account on his team with a 200% lead, linked up next to physical Super Saiyan 4 VEGETA, he's dropping multiple 14 million attack stats. In fact, I used a Rainbow friend in one of the runs we did on the challenge run stream on Saturday night who had attack equips, and his first attack stat was over 15 million. And he does multiple of those, most likely getting crits, tanks basically everything for double digits. Like turn 1, he looks better, you could say, than almost any of the other units on this list on turn 1. Now, the problem is when we look at the bigger picture, we zoom out, the Heroes team is obviously starting to fall off now. Now, I said in this video already, this is about global, right? So Fusion Zamasu, Omega, you can beat with the Heroes team, right? We've no-itemed them. We did it when the Heroes units came out. Well, for Omega, we had to wait until the Omega stage came out for global, which was in, was it January or February? But we've done those stages, no items with the Heroes team. VEGETA cooks in those stages, and it's all good. I've done Heroes versus Barbady's Forces. That video, again, is either up already or going up soon. Perfectly fine. Now, unfortunately, because we spent so many attempts trying to do the versus Super BUU, I've only had one attempt at that stage, and we got super bad RNG on turn 1. So I haven't really tested out. The Heroes team, the Super BUU event is probably the first stage out of the current global sets where the Heroes team is really going to struggle. But VEGETA himself is still really, really good in that event, right? So it's difficult to place VEGETA in these lists. If you have him lower down solely because the rest of the Heroes team is starting to age out a little bit, that's fair enough. And as I said in the last tier list that I made, once the anniversary content comes to global, this guy's going to drop way down the list because most of the rest of the Heroes team, outside of a couple of units, becomes completely power crept by the anniversary content, which means whilst this guy is still good by himself, his team can't really handle the rest of the weight, and then you lose the event, not because of VEGETA, but because of the team. So that's why he's still so high for me on the list for global, because the Heroes team can still beat all of the events on global. And when I say that, I mean with no items, right? Outside of, as I've said, Super BUU, which I still need a bit more, you know, practice, a few more attempts. But I think with the right RNG, the team could definitely beat that stage, right? You've got units like Tech Janemba, Dark Mask King, as long as he's not getting like immediately supered, can still tank okay with the guard against Super BUU. Ideally, you want like the AoE to go off and then he gets his super and heals you. Like with the right RNG, I think I can beat the Super BUU stage with the Heroes team. So they will start to fall off. VEGETA will move down the list, right? But for now, in terms of global, he's just, like I say, on his first turn and potentially even his second turn, like comparing him to this guy, right? Who I would have put at number 4 if VEGETA wasn't there. On turn 1, this guy can do a 14 million attack stat linked up with the Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku, as I've already said. But unless he gets an additional from his hidden potential, that's it. He's doing that 14 million attack stat, and then that's it. Whereas VEGETA is potentially doing 3 of them that are all crits, and this guy gets enough defense after supering to tank normals, but if he gets supered, he can still take a decent amount of damage. Whereas this guy, especially post-super on turn 1, he's not really taking damage from any super attacks. So on turn 1, Vegito is absolutely better than Dragon Fist Goku, but it's when you start to take into account everything else where these comparisons become a little bit harder. I would be tempted to put Dragon Fist Goku above Vegito in certain circumstances. And like I said, you can make arguments that turn 1, this guy's still better than the 3 units that we're yet to mention. But I think just overall, with the sheer level of power and consistency and the teams that they're on, the 3 other units probably are in a tier of their own above this Vegito, unfortunately. But I do still think he's very good, especially on Global, where the Heroes team is not yet completely outdated. But yeah, Vegito is still at number 4. Let me know what you guys think down below. I know some people don't think he should be included in the list at all, but let me know what you think. Does he make your top 10 list? But yeah. Then we move on to number 3. So this is where I know we're going to immediately have disagreements, because the top 3... I should say in advance, they're all very close, right? If you want to rearrange the top 3 into pretty much any order, I probably wouldn't disagree. So if one of your only disagreements with this list is the order of the top 3, I wouldn't get too mad about it, because like I said, I would easily move these guys around. This is only based on the time that I've had so far with these units, right? So at number 3, I have BUU. Now, the reason why BUU is at number 3... maybe if I made this list next week, it would be different. I don't know. But for some events, when I've been making BUU's team, there's like 1 or 2 slots left at the end of the team where sometimes I really don't know who to put into that team. Now, obviously, you can run Goku and BUU on each other's team. But then, like, Goku kind of wants to be on a rotation of his own with another unit he's going to link well with. And just for me, personally, I don't like to mix and match, like, the teams like that. So... obviously, straight away, if you're somebody who does like to make teams like that, you could potentially have this BUU at 2 or 1. And so it's just one of the ways that I look at his team building, right? I don't want to merge the 2 together. When I'm looking at BUU or Goku and thinking about their teams, I'm not really thinking as much about them being on each other's team, even though that is, of course, a valid way to use them, right? So this guy, you know, we've got physical Buuhan EZA, we've got Harudagan, now, I also, personally, I didn't pull the evil BUU, so maybe that, of course, is something I should take into account. Maybe I would like his team more if I had the evil BUU as well, but that's one more slot on the team that needs filling with someone else. Tech Exchange BUU gets his EZA next week, and then, as we said with 21, the Part 2 LR could be, you know, the meme, could be LR Kid BUU, buff this guy's team even more. Now, the one thing about this guy that he can be absolutely insane. Like, if we're talking about these guys' best turns and their best potential, he can be super crazy. But I've also had turns where he will take a fair bit of damage, but not enough that he dies. And then one of the other units on the rotation gets killed. Like, if he's taking like 80k normals, but then he doesn't take a super, that's not enough for him to get killed. And then another unit on the rotation takes the super, and we potentially would have lived if we were on full health, but we die because Fat BUU lost so much health. He's kind of like a risk-reward play where you can try and get his standby, his revival really early by letting him take a bunch of hits, but then sometimes that backfires, and like I say, he doesn't take enough damage. Now, when he looks good, he looks really good, right? Because you get all that healing. You can build him up. His defense can build up to pretty crazy levels. It's not that insane at the start, but like I say, you can kind of go for getting him to get killed and revive almost straight away. And of course, they did fix the issue that we've had with previous revival units where any character getting a revival gives him the buffs that he gets, right? Where he gets the extra stats and guaranteed guard and an additional super. So he just goes absolutely crazy once somebody has revived. But I've had whole runs where even though we've ended up winning the event, neither of the BUUs have actually revived, which, I mean, in a way it's good, right? Because you didn't die, but you kind of want the revive so that these guys can go absolutely beast mode, which is something that, as I said, in my own personal experience, mine's only 55%, so maybe that plays into it a little bit as well. But yeah, BUU, whilst I think is very, very good, I've yet to see, or yet to experience myself, any of the real crazy, like, you know, him just going absolutely nuts kind of setups. We've had some really good runs of him, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm literally saying he's the 3rd best TUR in the game for Global, so still pretty good. And as I've said already, right, that top 3, the winner's plinth, you could arrange these guys in almost any order. Like, if you wanted to put BUU at 1, I could see it, right? I can see division. I just think for me, and with the experience I've had so far, he's currently at number 3. But as I've said, this could change literally by the end of Golden Week. Even without any new TURs releasing, some of the buffs that his team gets, I mean, this order could change by the end of Golden Week. But as I say, at the moment, I would happily have him as any of the top 3, but I have him at 3. And then number 2, I have Vegeta. Now, I know, again, people will see this as a bit controversial. I already know some people still have Vegeta at 1 and then 2 new units at 2 and 3. But I think with Vegeta, the anniversary is going to give him some major buffs to his team, which will help him a lot. Getting the STR Vegito Easy 8 early for Global is a big buff to his team as well, which I really do like. His team has a lot of really good units. Unfortunately, one thing I've noticed as we've gotten some of these buffs, obviously the STR Goku and Vegeta is not an example of this, but units like Kefla, Gotenks, some of these big Super Saiyan characters are not on his full 200%. And they don't link super well with him. And of course, they're not characters whose name includes Goku. So he's not getting that extra super with the extra stack at the beginning. But that not being said, like, you know, that's not a detriment to him. He still performs really, really well by himself. Turn 1, he can be super tanky. He's getting a few attacks off. He doesn't have crazy attack stats turn 1 unless you have like the links and support from like King Vegeta, for example, can make this guy's turn 1 turbocharged, which is very, very good. King Vegeta still works decently well on his team, although not good against AoEs. This guy, of course, he is super good against Super BUU, as well as being good against Omega and Zamasu. So, like I say, I could still see arguments for this guy being number 1, but I think his team still needs some more buffs. And his links with some of the characters that have come onto his team that are really good are not the best. So unless you're running key supports or, you know, some other units to buff him, he almost feels like, not like he's like getting left behind, because again, on his best turns, especially once he transforms, he can outperform some of these units. But like, if you take, for example, like Kefla turn 1 will be doing much more attack than this guy. Won't be as good defensively in terms of taking hits, but has the dodge. But they don't link very well. Even when she goes Super Saiyan, I think they don't share the key links. Because I think, doesn't she not have prepared for battle? I need to double check. But whenever I have them on rotation together, it always feels like if he's in slot 1 and she's in slot 2, yeah, she doesn't have prepared for battle. So they both need like 4 key, which for her isn't as much of an issue because you want to be picking up 6 orbs anyway. But it can be an issue because on a lot of the other team builds, like Vegeta with a good link partner doesn't need a lot of key. And so you can just get an orb and then save orbs for units that need more orbs in a different slot. Whereas Kefla can sometimes get left lacking, which I think is unfortunate. But Vegeta is still really good. Like I said, I've got him at 2 for now. I could still see him being at 1. I can't stress enough how close it is between the 3 characters at the top. But I have him at number 2, which obviously means at number 1 we have Goku. I think people massively underestimated this guy when they saw his details on paper. I don't think I have had in my own experience, even with events that have gone on to like turn 9, I haven't seen this guy take more than about 300k. And that was from him taking a slot 1 super from, I think it was from the Omega run, which, like I said, that video is either up or going up soon. He takes a slot 1 super on like turn 9 and only takes like 200 to 300k, which, you know, that's still a decent chunk of damage, but considering how much Omega does, and it's in slot 1, the Omega lowers defense with his super as well. Like, people were worried that once you get past even turn, you know, once you start getting to turn 5 and onwards, this guy would become a defensive liability. Now, some of those people might have been thinking about the events on the anniversary, which is fair to consider, but as we are making this list solely based around global, on the global meta, this guy just absolutely crushes everything. People don't like his attack stats in slot 1, but I mean, you know, that's what he does. If you know, he's like the AGL Blue Boys from the Worldwide. He's a defensive unit in slot 1. You put him in slot 2, and then on turn 1, he's doing multiple like 8 million attack stats that are getting 50% chance to crit. So his attack stats are still very good even in slot 2. And that's while still being able to back it up with having a ton of damage reduction. Like turn 1, if you have a decent unit that can go in slot 1 anyway and tank, you can put this Goku in slot 2 on turn 1. he's not going to get the guard, but it's on his first turn. He has 90% damage reduction, so he doesn't need it. And then he's potentially getting 3 or 4 supers in slot 2, which builds up his damage reduction from his passive. And then when it comes around to his next appearance, he's still got an insanely high level of damage reduction. So this guy is really, really good. I think people also kind of overestimate how important him having the Majin Buu Saga ally restriction is, because the best team build that I've been using for him that I've been really enjoying, I have his main rotation partners as non-Majin Buu Saga characters, and then I just have all the floating units as Buu Saga characters, and the team works really, really well. The physical Gotenks is a really good unit for the team for this guy. In Gotenks obviously is crazy. The STR VEGETA, like EZA, like his team is just really, really good and just crushes the content on global. So if you put him lower than 1 because of the consideration of the JP anniversary content and stuff, then that is fair enough. But in terms of global and the global meta right now, I definitely think this guy is the best TUR. In terms of like for example, whilst he's good against Zamasu throughout the full event, if you put this guy in slot 1, turn 1 against Zamasu and he supers immediately before this guy can do anything, this guy still takes like 200k, or at least mine does, because again, I'm basing it on my own experience. Mine isn't Rainbow. He still takes 200k, which is fine for a unit taking a slot 1 super from Zamasu. But Goku takes like double-digit damage because, of course, he has 90% damage reduction on turn 1. So this guy absolutely crushes it. But like I said, if you want to put any of these 3 units at number 1 and then put the others at 2 or 3 in pretty much any order, I probably wouldn't argue with it all that much, right? So if we take a look here at the list, get the zoomed out view. So there is the 1 to 10 list in reverse order. 23rd World Tournament Goku or Piccolo Jr. at 10, 21 at 9, Hirudegarn at 8, Physical Rose at 7, God Goku at 6, STR Dragon Fist Goku at 5, Limit Breaker Vegeta at 4, BUU at 3, Vegeta at 2, and Goku at 1. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Like I said at the beginning, any disagreements, feel free to explain, and I'm more than happy to have those discussions in the chat. I do like engaging with you guys, even when you disagree. As long as people are chill about it, it's fun to have those kind of discussions. So let me know what you guys think, and if you want to list out your top 10, how you would place them, let me know those down below in the comment section as well. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.